It's midweek. Hello and welcome to Business Live. In our headlines tonight, government increases cocoa producer price by 21% to 800 cedis per bag for the 2022-2023 crop season. We'll hear from Sector Minister.
I've agreed on the producer price for the 2022-2023 season, which opens this Friday, the 7th of October, 2022. Producer price. We are pleased to announce that the government of Ghana has increased the producer price of cocoa by 21%.
Also, the World Bank classifies Ghana as a highly debt-distressed country as it projects debt to gross domestic product will reach 104% by the end of the year. And auctioning of vehicles at Tema Port to go online by end of October this year. We'll hear from the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Amisha Dayo Wusuamua.
Who go around Tema looking for cars and looking all around. You can sit at your home, see the car online, indicate how much you want to pay for the car, and once you win, you pay online and you are done.
My name is Beverly Broohm. Do stay with us. Hello and welcome. Now, the World Bank has classified Ghana as a high debt-stressed country as it projects the nation's debt in relation to the size of the economy to reach 104.6% by the end of this year. Now, this according to its latest Africa Pulse report. Now, this report is coming at a time the bank and the International Monetary Fund are conducting a debt sustainability analysis of the country. Now, a country that is highly debt-distressed is unable to fulfill its financial obligations, and therefore debt restructuring is required. Now, according to the October Africa Pulse report, debt is expected to hit 99.7 and 101.8% of GDP in 2023 and 2024. The high debt is due to a widened government deficit, massive weakening of the cedi, and rising debt service cost. Meanwhile, the Bretton Woods institution has cut Ghana's economic growth rate to 3.5% for this year. George Wiafe has the rest of the story.
The World Bank says its projection was based on concerns about the rising debt stock, soaring inflation rate, and the depreciating Ghana cedi, and how this will greatly impact on economic activities going forward. The World Bank believes that these issues might make it difficult for the economy to pick up strongly going forward, despite the solid growth numbers in the first half of this year. It was also worried that the Bank of Ghana delayed in responding to the rising inflation rate when it first hit 13.9% in January this year, but rather had to wait for it to reach threatening levels before it stepped in with some tough monetary measures. The Washington-based lender might be of the view that the rate hikes was not enough in curbing inflation rate as well as the depreciating Ghana cedi. There are calls for government to take some tough measures to deal with the food situation as it could get worse going forward. The World Bank, for instance, noted that the time has come for government to review its agri spending from the poorly targeted subsidies towards good public goods that can yield the massive benefits for the economy. In a related development, high interest rates in Ghana and most countries are expected to persist beyond 2023. That's according to World Bank President David Malpass. Now, this means you will pay more for loans going forward, causing an increase in both cost of living and doing business in the country. Mr. Malpass says this will further impact negatively on both fiscal and monetary policies. He was delivering remarks at Stanford University ahead of the World Bank IMF spring meetings next week.
Looking beyond this sharp cyclical downturn, developing countries face the risk that these trends in advanced economies, inflation, slow growth, lower productivity, the drain on global energy supplies, and higher interest rates persist beyond 2023. If current fiscal and monetary policies become the new normal, it implies heavy absorption of global capital by advanced governments, prolonging the underinvestment in developing countries and hampering future growth. The macroeconomic challenges facing development are consequential and are probably worsening.
Now, joining us on Zoom now is US-based Associate Professor of Finance with Andrews University, Dr. Williams Wipra. Hello, sir. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for your time. First off, is Ghana's debt situation complicated? And if so, how did we get there?
Good evening, and thank you for calling me. Yes, our situation has become very dire at this particular moment. If you look at the debt positioning, what has made it very worse is coming from the exchange rate devaluation of our currency. If you look at the report, which have been issued by the World Bank, predicting that by the end of the year, which is 2022, our debt to GDP will be around 104%. It gives an indication that Ghana is already in a debt distress. If you look at the figures normally that we follow with IMF, IMF gives an indication that if an emerging economy like Ghana or a developing economy, the moment your debt to GDP moves above 64%, it means that you are going to face some debt burden in terms of having a high rate of debt distress. But with this projection of 104%, it's putting Ghana in a category. If you take Ghana as a country, as an individual, it means that Ghana will be bankrupt by the time it gets to December. What it means is that the income that Ghana is going to generate, which is termed as the GDP, will not be able to pay the debt we owe others. So this is very crucial at the moment. In the discussion ongoing with IMF, this particular report is going to give a signal to how IMF is going to position themselves to help Ghana. Mostly when a country gets rich above the 100%, that is the time that probably IMF will be looking at giving relief to that particular country. Our debt positioning, if you look at the way it is structured, about 57% of our debt are in the hands of external players. Out of the external players, multilateral institutions like IMF, World Bank, they are also holding about 23.6%. So the discussion will be, will they also be thinking of giving some debt relief to Ghana at this particular point in time so that the country will be able to find its financial position. Indeed, we have a lot of liquidity challenges at the moment. It requires that the government really slows down its expenditure. The government cannot be going on with the same approach as they did in 2020 and 2021. 2022 requires a drastic change with our expenditure pattern.
But Doc, will it be safe to say that government has failed in living by its words? I mean, promising expenditure rationalization, reduced borrowing, etc. Will it be right to say that government has failed?
I mean, the finance minister gave an indication in his speech that they have started yielding some results by cutting some expenditures. But what is really happening to Ghana is the impact of the cedi devaluation. We have almost 28.1 billion of our debts in foreign currencies. And these debts are also being converted into the cedi. So anytime the cedi devalues, the value of the debt increases. So that is why the government must find ways to address that particular situation. It is my hope that probably IMF will decide to swap our Eurobond loans. There will be about 1.6 billion which will be due in 2023. If IMF decides to swap that particular loan, it's going to reduce the pressure on the dollar. So this is very, very important that in that discussion, I'm hoping that government will be making that presentation of swapping the Eurobond loans for IMF loans. And possibly if IMF, looking at the situation that we are in already a distressed position of a prediction of 104% to GDP, IMF may decide to give some relief to the country or debt forgiveness. I think we are no more HIPIC, but if they really want to help us as a country, this is the time that IMF must come in and say, out of the $3 billion that we are giving to you from 2020 to 2023, 2021, and 2022, and probably we are prepared to give you some relief or debt cancellation. World Bank can also do same by helping us to give us some debt cancellation to save the situation. If not, the 104% simply means that all the revenues we are going to generate by the end of the year, we are going to use all of them to pay debt. And we even be owing 4% in excess, which makes the situation very, very well, because how are you going to pay wages? How are you going to support the other activities, capital expenditure in the country? So that is the time that we need IMF and World Bank support, probably to give some debt support. If not, we are heading to what we call sovereign default or debt bankruptcy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams-Pepa. We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Williams-Pepa is US-based Associate Professor of Finance with Andrews University. You're still watching. Now to our big story for today. The Ministry of Agriculture has increased the country's cocoa producer price from 660 cedis to 800 cedis per 50 kg for the 2022-2023 crop season. The announcement was made by the Sector Minister, Dr. Owusu Efri-Akoto, here in Accra. The new farm gate price, which represents a 21% enhancement of the 2021-2022 rate, takes effect Friday, the 7th October 2022. Now, speaking at a press briefing, the minister said the cedi depreciation against the dollar prevented the government from increasing the figure beyond 21%.
2023 season, which opens this Friday, the 7th of October, 2022. Producer price. We are pleased to announce that the government of Ghana has increased the producer price of cocoa by 21% from 10,560 cedis per metric ton to 12,800 cedis per metric ton. The producer price represents 89.99% of the net FOB value. This figure translates into 800 cedis per bag of 64 kilogram gross weight and takes effect from Friday, 7th October 2022. A 21% rise in the producer price of cocoa is a testament to government's resolve to ensure farmers earn a decent income and make cocoa farming lucrative. Government will continue to implement initiatives to build a robust, resilient, and sustainable cocoa industry where cocoa farmers and their communities will thrive.
Now, before we go, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, is in the process of developing an online platform for the purposes of auctioning vehicles and goods at the Tema Port. The initiative, known as the e-auction, will eliminate corruption associated with auctioning of goods at the port. Speaking at a ceremony to launch the GRA Service Charter, Commissioner General of the GRA, Reverend Amisha Owusu-Amwa, disclosed that prospective vehicle buyers will go online to make their purchases without appearing physically by the end of this month.
And for those who go around Tema looking for cars and looking all around, you can sit at your home, see the car online, indicate how much you want to pay for the car, and once you win, you pay online and you are done.
We'll bring you more on this in our subsequent bulletins. Thank you so much for your time here on Business Live on the Joy News channel. Thank you so much for your company. My name is Beverly Broohm. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I leave you with news making headlines in the international front.